Hey folks, welcome back to Game Time. John Eads back with you. New episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. We talk LSU, Southern, Saints, all the colleges, all the high schools, all the pro teams in the local area. Really just take you inside what we typically do on our 9 News shows and what we do online as well. So we appreciate you tuning in. You can find our episodes on WAFB.com, the 9 News app, and be sure to follow us on social media, the X app, it's at WAFB. My personal socials, at John Eads WAFB on the X app and John Eads TV on Instagram. So unlike what we've done previously, we're going to lead off with Saints today because the team won their first preseason game. There were some positive, negative takeaways. Let's start with the positives. So the offense looked really good. 26-24 win for New Orleans. Their first preseason opening win since 2018. Now, I know the results of the game, nobody really cares about that. I mean, of course, you want to come in and win when you're playing in a game. But what people care more about is how the starting offense looks, how the quarterback looks. And that all I thought was really, really good. So Derek Carr, his first game as a Saint, he goes 6 for 8, passes for 70 yards and a touchdown. I don't really care about the stats. You just watch the game. You watch that first drive he had. He looked so comfortable. He threw completions to 4 different wide receivers. He sat in the pocket, made his reads, went through his progressions. I was specifically watching his decision-making. Last episode, we talked about the fact that he's thrown a lot of interceptions the last 2 years. 28 picks, 14 each season. That's more interceptions than he'd thrown the prior 3 seasons before that. So his decision-making hasn't been there, whether it be because he had a lack of options over in Las Vegas, the offensive system wasn't really tailor-made to his skill set. I don't really know if any of those things will be problems here. They certainly weren't in this first game. He methodically moved this football team, this offense, down the field for an easy touchdown. I know the first drive of games is often scripted. Whatever the script was, it worked because they were getting chunk plays left and right, a 12-yard run, a 17-yard completion, and eventually it resulted in a touchdown. That's the only drive we saw for Derek Carr and really the starting offense, but if that's the one drive that we see in a game, that's the drive you'll want to see. Something else that impressed me. Last year, the Saints only scored in their opening possession of a football game 6 times in 17 games. 4 touchdowns. Most of those came at the end of the season, and then 2 field goals. That's not good, okay? That percentage is under 40% easily, maybe close to 30%. So to see the Saints come out and score on their first drive of the game with the starting offense was really impressive. And you got to be walking away from that game feeling nothing but good about what Derek Carr could be for this Saints offense. Now, who was he throwing to? Some of the guys that really impressed me, start with Juwan Johnson, a guy that converted from wide receiver. Saw him play that in college at Penn State, a little bit at Oregon as well. He plays tight end. This guy is a tough cover. I mean, a guy going from wide receiver to tight end, he's got athleticism, he's got explosiveness, and he's got the frame too. So that was probably one of the best decisions he ever made. Whoever made that decision, Juwan or a coaching staff along the way, to move him to tight end. Receptions for 18 and 11 yards, big chunk gains. He's one-on-one against the linebacker. He's really tough to cover, and he flashed that in this game. He's going to be a weapon all season with Taysom Hill, maybe with Jimmy Graham, and these wide receivers. You got to start with A.T. Perry. A lot of you probably didn't know who this guy was before the Saints played. In fact, the guy that was calling the game called him A.J. Perry. His name is A.T. Perry. Put some respect on his name, okay? I mean, he earned some respect. Led the team in receiving, caught all 6 of his targets, 70 yards and a touchdown, including a 29-yard receiving touchdown from Jameis Winston, a guy that he really had some good chemistry with. Where he did most of his damage was when Winston was in the game, but those are passes that Carr can make that Winston made, and I'm sure no matter who's playing quarterback, if Perry's open and they throw him the ball, he's going to make a play. I saw this guy play a lot in college. He played at Wake Forest, lengthy, tall guy, absolutely destroyed the Syracuse defense when I saw him play in person. Just long reception after long reception. Very good route runner, and he can high point the football and come down with it like he did on that touchdown reception. So 6th-round pick, A.T. Perry, certainly making a good case to make the team, and not only make the team, but also be a real impact player this year for the Saints offense. Moving on, Chris Olave didn't have a reception in this game. Maybe underwhelmed some folks, but, I mean, last year he had over 70 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns in his rookie season. So I wouldn't be concerned about what Chris Olave can do. The guy, he played at Ohio State, another guy I watched a lot in college. He's a playmaker. He made a lot of plays last year, and just because he dropped, quote-unquote, I don't know if you consider that play to be a drop, his only real opportunity to get involved in this game, he's going to be fine. So you got that option as well for Derek Carr. That's a weapon. And then how about Michael Thomas? Welcome back. He's only played 3 games combined over the last 3 seasons. He plays in the first preseason game, makes 1 catch for 16 yards. Just getting him on the field, that's a promising sign, okay? I mean, you would have liked to see him maybe produce a little bit more, but let's just get him on the field and get him back to full health. They did that. He played, so that was a good sign. Now, the guys in front of Carr and allowing for the big pass plays to happen. I thought the offensive line was really good. I mean, they paved the way for Kamara to run for some big yards. They paved the way for short yardage situations for Jamal Williams to pick up yardage, and they protected Derek Carr really well. I talk about how he was able to just sit in the pocket like this and scan the field and look for his receivers. He was able to do that all game long, and it's because that offensive line kept him upright, kept him off his back. Now, the backup offensive line, we'll talk about that in the negative section, not as good, but this is positives. Finish out with this. The defense, I thought, was really good. Yeah, you give up 24 points, but when it mattered, they were good. I mean, and when it mattered was when Mahomes was in the game. What you really care about is your starting defense. You don't really care about your backups, you know, the tertiary guys even. What you want to see is your starting D-line, your starting linebackers, your starting secondary do well against the opposing starters. And they held Mahomes, albeit one drive, to just 20 total yards. 2 passes for 15 yards and 1 carry for 5. Now, that 1 carry was on a 3rd and 10, I want to say, or something like that. And he was trying to get the first down, and they converged on him. They collapsed on him and forced him to slide early, so they were short of the line to gain, and they either punted there or tried to get the first down on a 4th down situation, and that D-line stuffed the run. So that was really impressive, and they were just really juiced up, too. Cam Jordan's out here doing, like, gymnastics, acrobat stuff after he makes a tackle. Like, they were excited to be there. They were ready to go. So good to see that energy and that charisma and that chemistry from that D-line, especially in preseason game 1 like that. And then lastly, I thought Pete Werner did a great job stepping in for Demario Davis at the Mike linebacker spot, calling out the defense, making all the checks, making all the reads. So if Davis is out at any point, you hope not, but if he is, Werner could step in and call the defense well. He stuffed a run at one point, and he was critical in the Saints' defensive success. So the starting offense looked good. Thought the starting defense looked good as well. The Saints got out to a big lead early in this game, and then, you know, it's preseason football, so you throw the guys in that are trying to make the team. Overall, it's a win, 26-24. So a lot of positives to take away in a lot of different areas, and hopefully the Saints can keep it up moving forward in preseason and then, of course, in the regular season. All right, with every positive, there's a negative, and we got to talk negative takeaways from the Saints' 26-24 preseason win over the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City. So this negative we're going to start with isn't really like a wholesale negative, but it's a negative to start the season, I guess. Alvin Kamara is irreplaceable. He, of course, is going to be suspended for the first 3 games of the season for his off-the-field situation, which, by the way, could have been a lot more games. So take that with a grain of salt, I guess. The guy, you can't copy him. He is a unique football player, really one of a kind. In this game, the Saints found, when he was in the game, any way they could to get this guy the ball. Screen passes, zone gives, handoffs, short routes. I mean, just put the ball in Kamara's hands and he will make plays. He did that. 12-yard run, 17-yard reception on a screen. He can affect the game in so many different ways, and you're really going to miss that in the first 3 games of the season. You don't have that in Jamal Williams. You don't have that in Kendre Miller. Nobody else on this roster, not even Kareem Hunt, if you signed Kareem Hunt, can do what Alvin Kamara does. So with a new quarterback in Derek Carr, you want all the weapons you can have. And a guy like Kamara, we can call him a quarterback helper, the way he affects the game. You hand him the ball, he'll get you 20 yards. You do the extension of the run game with a screen pass and just swing it out to him, he'll run for 20 yards, if not more. You're not going to have him for the first 3 games. And I specifically came into this game wanting to see if Jamal Williams could show any resemblance of Alvin Kamara. He could not. 9 carries for 28 yards, about 3 per carry. That's pretty much what he did when I watched him in Detroit. Now, what he would also get you is maybe a touchdown or 2 in the red zone inside the 5-yard line. But he didn't really flash a big play potential. He's a take the handoff, cloud of dust, pick up 3 yards. That's probably it. That's what you're going to get from Jamal Williams. And that'll work, but, you know, the offense looked so seamless that first drive when Kamara was in the game and Carr was orchestrating that offense and finding ways to put the ball in Kamara's hands. So you won't have Kamara. Kendre Miller, 4 carries, 5 yards. Blah. 1 reception for a yard. Anybody could do that. I could probably do that. And Miller, who's coming off of an injury in that college football playoff game in college, walked to the medical tent in the third quarter. He did walk there under his own power, but that's something to monitor. I mean, that's one of your high draft picks, and you would hope that maybe he could step in and provide an impact this year at running back, but I don't know. So running back's a big question mark, and that's a negative for me right now going forward. Now, individual negatives. Zach Bond. Again, not really a wholesale negative, but we talked about these things in the shows last week, and check them out if you missed them on WAFB.com/gametime and our YouTube page as well, WAFB. Zach Bond. I wanted to see him specifically in pass coverage because that's the biggest question mark for me with Bond, who plays outside linebacker. Caden Ellis, we talked about this. He's now with the Falcons. He's not on the team. He was really good last year in run support and coverage, a dual-threat linebacker, if you will. I wanted to see if Bond could do that as well. And he could do the run stuff in the blitzing. He had a sack, 3 tackles, and was solid in solidifying that defensive line and stopping runs for Kansas City. But then I think in the back of my head, there's a play that's just burned in there. Kansas City runs a play-action waggle, which is when a running back runs a route out of the backfield, basically, just a short route. And he was 3 steps behind said running back, completely out of the play. And that running back picked up 12 yards. And anybody can game plan for that. Heck, Kamara probably does that in practice against Bond and picks up maybe 60, 70 yards, takes it all the way. You need Zach Bond to get his coverage down. He's a 3rd-round pick 3 years ago. It's been a long time. And if you're a high-value draft pick like that, you got to do more than just get an occasional sack and make a couple tackles and run support. Anybody could do that. You can go grab someone from any practice squad on any NFL team, and they can do that for you. Just be a body and tackle somebody when they run at you. I want an athlete that can cover a running back, can run stride for stride with a tight end, and maybe can cover a receiver as well. You don't have that in Bond, and that was a little disheartening for me. Because if you don't have it from Bond, you're going to have to get it from somebody else. So that's another question moving forward. And then Alontae Taylor, as a DB in the NFL, really just in football, you don't want to be the guy who has his jersey number remembered because he got burned on a play. And Alontae Taylor was that guy for me. He got burned on a 43-yard slot fade. I was like, number one, oh, Alontae Taylor. Yeah, you're not going to forget that name when that happens one time. So he struggled in man-to-man coverage. He played really well last year. Didn't play for much of the early portion of the season, then really turned it up towards the end, played 9 of the final 11 games. In fact, started 9 of those final 11, made 45 tackles, and led the team with 11 pass deflections. He had a pass deflection in this game, led to a pick. So some good, some bad, but I don't want a guy that's getting burned for 43-yard routes occasionally. In fact, ever. And Alontae Taylor was that, the former 2nd-round pick in this game. So he's got to clean that up moving forward. It also came like later in the game against Kansas City's like backup. So it wasn't like it was the first or second drive of the game and it was Travis Kelce or whoever Kansas City is playing wide receiver these days. I feel like they switch their wide receivers like every year, and it doesn't matter because they got Patty Mahomes. So Zach Bond, Alontae Taylor, they got to step it up a little bit. Now on the offensive side, real quickly, Jameis Winston, up and down. His stats will show you that he was really good. 11 of 13, 92 yards, touchdown. That's all good. You see those numbers, you're like, oh, great, Jameis, way to go, man. But let's go inside the numbers. Sacked 3 times. Now, that can mean one of 2 things, and we're going to talk about both things. Winston was a non-factor with his feet. He was slow in the pocket, which he was. He didn't seem comfortable back there. Or the offensive line really struggled, and they did. The backup offensive line, there's going to be some issues this year if some of the starters go down, which they do. Every year there's injuries in that offensive line room because the backups did not give Winston, Jake Haener, much time, much comfortability, if that's even a word. We're going to make it a word. He just didn't seem comfortable back in the pocket. First drive looked good, threw a touchdown to A.T. Perry, but since then, he was here, he was there, and then he's throwing it up into 2 and 3 defenders and nearly getting it picked off, which you cannot have from Jameis Winston. So a lot of good, a lot of bad. And if you want a solid, consistent backup quarterback, I'm not sure you saw enough from neither Winston nor Haener to make a confident decision in who that should be. And then, yeah, I mean, you need that offensive line to improve, especially the backups, because there will be injuries. There will be times when you need to rotate guys in and out. And they allowed Winston to be sacked 3 times. And this is a guy that has pretty good legs. I mean, they're not completely dead. He was a dual-threat quarterback in college, but it did not look like it in this game. So got to shore those things up moving forward. Luckily, there's still 3 preseason games left for the Saints before the regular season kicks in. So something I've been really trying to do with LSU is think about how can this team improve on what they did last year? And again, I say it every time I bring it up. Last year was great. 10-4, SEC West Division champs. You beat Alabama, and also year one of Brian Kelly. Awesome year. But with the folks that are on the team this year, the coaches, just everything about LSU football, this team can win a national championship. I think there's a strong belief in that in Baton Rouge, around the state of Louisiana, many parts of the country. A lot of people think LSU can do it. Number 5 in the preseason AP poll. So I want to know, how can this team eliminate the little bit of bad things they did last year in the 4 losses they had, 10-4 season, to get better, maybe win all their games this year? So here's some things I found. We've talked about the defense a little bit in this regard already. Now I want to get into the offense. So how did LSU's offense lose the Tigers games last year? In short, when opponents could turn the offense one-dimensional. What that means is when they forced LSU to really just strictly run the ball, strictly pass the ball, and only do that. No balanced offense, no good runs, no good passes, no good running leading to good passing, and vice versa. That's how teams beat this offense, contained this offense, stifled this offense last year. How can you change that this year? That's what I want to find out. But to do that, we need to look back at specific games from last year where I think the offense lost LSU some games. So, 5 different times last year, LSU was outgained in a football game. The opponent had more yards than LSU. That's all that means. 2-3 record in those games. Wins against Auburn and Alabama. Close wins. Razor-thin margin in that Alabama game, of course. The losses to Florida State, Tennessee, Texas A&M. Now, I'm going to give you the disclaimers on the Georgia and Texas A&M losses. Georgia, they actually outgained the Bulldogs in that game, which is crazy. But I don't count Georgia as a game where the offense lost LSU the game because Jaden Daniels got hurt during the game, and it's hard to win when you're starting quarterbacks out, obviously. And then Texas A&M had the number 21 defense in the country last year. So I expected LSU to struggle a little bit in that game, and the offense really didn't struggle that much. They did a little bit, though. The problem for me was the fact that LSU's defense allowed Texas A&M to garner more than 400 total yards. And that was an A&M offense that was like bottom 3rd in college football last year. 101 in the country out of like 130 teams in total offense. They allowed 38 points. That was a season high. Only 2 times last year did A&M go over the 30 spot. The other one against something called Sam Houston State. That's a college football team. LSU, Sam Houston State probably shouldn't be talked about in the same sentence. So let's focus on Florida State and Tennessee. In those 2 games combined, LSU was roughly minus 200 yards in net yardage. More so in the Tennessee game than the Florida State game. So let's dive into these games. Florida State, 24-23 loss. Probably a game they should have won. They lose on a blocked PAT. How many times do you see that? In a situation where if you don't make it, you lose the game. Not very often, but that happened. I have a feeling LSU would have won that game had they gone to overtime, which they should have. So here's the problem. FSU led at halftime 7-3. 3 points in one half in this day and age of college football, you're not going to win many games, especially in the SEC, when you only do that. And if you only score 3 points against FSU this year in this rendition of the game in Orlando coming up soon, yeah, if you tell me that before the game, I'd probably say LSU would lose. Okay, but last year they picked it up in the second half, scored 3 touchdowns, got back in the game, but the total numbers aren't pretty. 30 rushes for 139 yards. Not great. You try to aim for like 150 typically per game, if not 200. If you can go 200 rushing, 200 passing, I think that's an ideal offense. And this isn't like an air raid system or anything they run here, so they don't specifically lean on the run or the pass. On the passing side, 25 of 35 for a little over 200 yards. Pretty efficient, but not prolific. And you allowed 4 sacks. I know it was Jaden Daniels' first game at LSU. A lot of new pieces to this offense, and it's the first game of the year. There's no preseason in college football like there is in the NFL, so you're going to struggle. And they did struggle that game. Minus 44 yards in net yards. So FSU gained more yards than LSU. 44 was the grand total there. So not that big of a margin, but that's a game, first game of the season. If you just play any better, put up any more points in the first half, you probably win. I think the defense gave LSU many opportunities to win this game. So that one, not really a great case as to the offense losing the game for LSU, but I think there's certain factors and exhibits in that argument that you could point to. Tennessee's really the one I have a big problem with. A game where you lose 40-13, It was 11 a.m. start. People were groggy and sleepy here, and I don't think any football game here should start at 11 a.m., but that's another topic for another time. This is a game where you know you're going to have to put up points. Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Josh Heupel's offense was unreal with Tennessee last year. So you knew that you'd have to go punch for punch with these guys. They didn't go punch for punch with them. In fact, they got knocked out in the second round, if not the first round. It's a 13-0 ball game, 20-0 in fact, before you even sit down and get your first round of beverages. So when that happens, your offense is already behind the 8 ball. You're probably going to be passing a lot, and they did pass a lot. They ran the ball 28 times for 55 yards, and that's it. They passed the ball 32 times or 45 times, completed 32 of those 45 for 300 yards. My issue, they leaned on that pass way too much. And this is one of the things we talked about is LSU amping that run game up this year, picking a couple of backs and figuring that out instead of rotating guys in and out all the time. Tennessee really allowed LSU to move the ball. 25 first downs for the Tigers in this game. So they were getting up and down the field. They just weren't converting. They'd get into Tennessee's side of the field, plus territory, 4th down stop. Turnovers. Coming away with no points. This game could have been much closer, much more competitive if LSU's offense produced. It was 23-7 at halftime. LSU didn't even score until 3 minutes before halftime. Unacceptable. And I know that there were special teams miscues, and Tennessee was moving up and down the field at will, but there were drives where LSU in the first half was in Tennessee's territory deep, and they didn't get any points out of it. In fact, 10 seconds left in the game, Jaden Daniels threw a pick at the 2. So that's a game where I think the offense did lose you the game. We mentioned the 5 sacks, -2 in turnovers, 4 punts, 0 for 3 on 4th down as well. And you're not going to go for it on 4th down unless it's a convertible 4th down. There was one 4th and 10. I'm sure the others, though, were short yardage. I mean, that's not winning football. If some of those things go right instead of wrong, you probably got 14, 17, 21 points there. And instead of 40-13, maybe it's 40-35 or 40-32, whatever. You name it, you pick the score. That's a game where the offense lost this team the game. -147. 147 in total yardage. So this year, I want LSU to be able, in any game against any defense, to run the football and pass the football and not get turned one-dimensional. This needs to be a 2-dimensional offense every game this year if LSU wants to win a national championship. Period. Well, as we do quite often here, and we'll continue to do, we're creating new segments here on Game Time with John Eads, and here's a new one for today. We're calling it Freshman Familiarity. What this is we're informing you of some of the incoming freshmen from this past recruiting class, very good recruiting class, by the way, that could see the field this year so that when you see them and you hear their name, you know who they are, and they don't catch you by surprise. So we're getting you prepared for the season before it's even here. That's what we do here on Game Time. So we're starting off today with probably the guy that will play the most amongst the freshmen this year, and that's Dashawn Womack. He's wearing number 17 this season for LSU. He's 6'5", 260 pounds. Big dude. You'll see him on defense, specifically the defensive line, but he also has the athleticism to play a little bit of linebacker as well. He was a 5-star recruit like LSU gets very often. Top 30 guy according to 24/7 Sports. Number 3 defensive line prospect from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore, Maryland. That's a powerhouse amongst high school football. That's probably the best high school program, I'd say, in the state of Maryland, maybe one of the best on the East Coast. He played against really good high school competition, which helps. He's got good hands as a pass rusher. He's able to swim under guys, make contact with offensive linemen. He's a technician with that. And we mentioned that athleticism, a sub 4.8 40 for high school. I know that's kind of high, but he comes to LSU. He's in the strength and conditioning program for 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years. You're hoping not 5 because you want him to just come in and be a baller and go pro quickly. Though we do want him here for as long as he wants to be here, of course. He's an explosive guy. That's what that means. 4.8 40 as a high schooler and a guy that's 250-plus pounds. That's a good time, and it's only going to get better. Now, what makes this guy a 5-star is his versatility. And even LSU staffers have talked about that. Defensive coordinator Matt House has said, quote, he's a versatile guy who we can move around in this defense, and that has come to fruition. Brian Kelly said it a lot in the spring as well. Versatility. He can play in many different places and do so well because of his athleticism. So we've seen him at defensive end, where we hope he can replace some people that LSU lost in the offseason. And linebacker. They call it the jack linebacker spot. Really cool. It's kind of a hybrid between a D end and an outside linebacker. So Savion Jones is supposed to start there. Apparently, Womack's been getting some reps behind Jones in practice, and you just got to find a way to get this guy on the field, really, whether it be a D end or at that hybrid linebacker defensive end position. That's really the name of the game this year for Womack. He's too good to have on the sideline holding Gatorade bottles and filling up the Gatorade bottles. He needs to be in the game, getting TFLs, getting sacks, getting tackles. What's interesting about this guy is that he is coming off of a surgery. He had a shoulder surgery. That's a tongue twister. In the spring there, and was 275, so he gained like 15, 20 pounds, which isn't ideal. But it's good when he loses that weight, and he has lost that weight. He's dropped that weight. He's down to 260, like I said. And when you gain weight like that, you bulk up, you gain muscle. And then, of course, a little bit's going to come off when you cut, but he's cut, gotten bigger, more muscular, and he got that shoulder repaired. So it was a win-win for everybody. Now, I mentioned that elite competition he played in high school. Last year as a senior, 26 TFLs, 15 sacks, 5 fumble recoveries as well. And that was against teams like IMG Academy, and some of the better teams in the high school ranks. So he's not just playing the nobodies in the state of Maryland or the surrounding states there. He's playing the best of the best, the caliber of guys that he will see at the college level when he plays here at LSU. So Dashawn Womack, certainly a guy to know. What we're hoping for is that he can replace what B.J. Ojulari was last year for LSU. He was that anchor defensive end. He wore number 18, which is very special for the LSU program. He's 17 right now. By the time he's a senior, junior, sophomore, he might be that number 18 guy. That's the kind of skill level that he has as that former 5-star. Now, I mentioned he has been backing up Savion Jones a bit in practice at that hybrid linebacker position. Savion Jones has gone on record to say, quote, Jones, the hype is real. So, that takes a lot for the guy that is competing with you for playing time to validate what you are and what people are saying about you. So, someone's got to step into that role that B.J. Ojulari had last year for this Tigers defense. Can it be Womack? Can it be Jones? That's what we're really trying to determine here. Who can fill what Ojulari did? Maybe between those two, they combine together to replace Ojulari's production, but between those two, someone's got to do it, if not together, because Ojulari was just a mainstay for this LSU defense last year, and they certainly need him, I guess, a shadow of him this year. That's another big question mark, I think, for this defense, is that second defensive end position. I think Womack could be that guy. So recently, LSU lost out on Colin Simmons, the 5-star from Duncanville, Texas, who was between Texas and LSU. He chose Texas, ultimately, unlike Caden Durham, the incoming 4-star. But you did bring in a guy like Simmons last year, and he's ready to play now. So get excited about Dashawn Womack, folks, number 17. Look for him this year. In fact, don't look for him. He's going to make sure that you know who he is, because he will make plays. He will make himself a household name, a household number, not only in living rooms, but also opposing coaches' scouting rooms as well. And he'll do so quickly. Look out for him this fall. All right, that wraps up episode 4 of Game Time with John Eads. A couple more Saints topics. First preseason game in the books. LSU football is coming up quick. They only got single-digit number of practices left before the opener against Florida State. So we're very excited. Very excited to talk about it twice a week. And we hope you guys are excited to listen twice a week. Every Tuesday and Thursday. I'll have another episode for you on Thursday. And, of course, be back at it next week. Thanks a lot for watching. Again, check us out, WAFB.com/GameTime. WFB on YouTube, at WFB on the X app. Follow me at John Eads WFB on the X app, and John Eads TV on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in as always. Catch you on Thursday.